The following program is a production of the Civil War Broadcasting Network and is part of the ongoing series General Grant Looks at the American Civil War. Permission to copy and distribute is granted and indeed encouraged. Remember, you are the future of our past. And now, General of the Army, General Grant, has some reflections about President Lincoln on this day, February the 12th, President Lincoln's birthday. I am General of the Army Ulysses S. Grant, and I should like on this date, February the 12th, to reflect upon what I have said about President Lincoln and indicate how I felt about the President and our relationship. I have written, although hailing from Illinois myself, the state of the President, I never met Mr. Lincoln until called to the Capitol to receive my commission as Lieutenant General. I knew him, however, very well and favorably from accounts given by officers under me at the West who had known him all their lives. I had also read the remarkable series of debates between Lincoln and Douglas a few years before, when they were rival candidates for the United States Senate. I was then a resident of Missouri and by no means a Lincoln man in that contest, but I recognized then his great ability. In my first interview with Mr. Lincoln alone, he stated to me that he had never professed to be a military man or to know how campaigns should be conducted, and never wanted to interfere in them, but that procrastination on the part of commanders and the pressure from the people of the North and Congress, which was always with him, forced him into issuing his series of military orders 1, 2, 3, and so forth. He did not know, but they were all wrong, and did know that some of them were. All he wanted or had ever wanted was someone who would take the responsibility and act, and call on him for all the assistance needed, pledging himself to use all the power of government in rendering such assistance, assuring him that I would do the best I could with the means at hand and avoid as far as possible annoying him or the War Department. Our first interview ended. I remember one little incident which I will relate as an anecdote characteristic of Mr. Lincoln. It occurred a day after I reached Washington and about the time General Meade reached Burkesville with the Army. Governor Smith of Virginia had left Richmond with the Confederate States government and had gone to Danville. Supposing I was necessarily with the Army at Burkesville, he addressed a letter to me there informing me that as governor of the Commonwealth of the state of Virginia, he had temporarily removed the state capital from Richmond to Danville and asking if he would be permitted to perform the functions of his office there without molestation by the federal authorities. I give this letter only in substance. He also inquired of me whether, in case he was not allowed to perform the duties of his office, he, with a few others, might not be permitted to leave the country and go abroad without interference. General Meade, being informed that a flag of truce was outside his pickets with a letter to me, at once sent out and had the letter brought in without informing the officer who brought it that I was not present. He read the letter and telegraphed me its contents. Meeting Mr. Lincoln shortly after receiving this dispatch, I repeated its contents to him. Mr. Lincoln, supposing I was asking for instructions, said, in reply to that part of Governor Smith's letter which inquired whether he, with a few friends, would be permitted to leave the country unmolested, that his position was like that of a certain Irishman, giving his name, he knew in Springfield, who was very popular with the people, a man of considerable promise, and very much liked. Unfortunately, he had acquired the habit of drinking, and his friends could see that the habit was growing on him. These friends determined to make an effort to save him, And to do this, they drew up a pledge to abstain from all alcoholic drinks. They asked Pat to join them in signing the pledge, and he consented. He had been so long out of the habit of using plain water as a beverage that he resorted to soda water as a substitute. After a few days, this began to grow distasteful to him. So, holding the glass behind him, he said, "Doctor, couldn't you drop a bit of brandy in that unbeknownst to myself?" I do not remember what the instructions were the president gave me, but I know that Governor Smith was not permitted to perform the duties of his office. I also know that if Mr. Lincoln had been spared, there would have been no efforts made to prevent anyone from leaving the country who desired to do so. He would have been equally willing to permit the return of the same expatriated citizens after they had time to repent of their choice. There is no great difference of opinion now in the public mind as to the characteristics of the president. Mr. Lincoln gained influence over men by making them feel it was a pleasure to serve him. He preferred yielding his own wish to gratify others, rather than to insist upon having his own way. It distressed him to disappoint others. In matters of public duty, however, he had what he wished, but in the least offensive way. Mr. Lincoln did not require a guardian to aid him in the fulfillment of public trust. Mr. Lincoln was not timid, and he was willing to trust his generals in making and executing their plans. President Lincoln was a great man. I wish him a happy birthday, and I mourn his passing. I thank you, and until we meet again for other reflections, I am General of the Army Ulysses S. Grant, bidding you an affectionate farewell.